the Insiders NBA Draft, a moment that promises to match in terms of suspense last week's ultra-thrilling NBA Draft lottery. Now, Bob Ferry, Pat Riley, and Peter Vecsey have been kept sequestered in a special room. They're rubbing shoulders with accountants from the firm of Ernst & Young, and now they've emerged to make public their selections. Here are the rules. Ferry goes first. I chime in second, then Vecsey, then Riley, until we've gotten through all the lottery teams and we make our selections. But we got to move quickly. There'll be a 24-second clock on each choice. Once a guy's gone, that's it, just like a regular draft. The Charlotte Hornets have the first pick, as you know. Bob Ferry will pretend that you are Alan Bristow. Start the clock.
Well, if I were Alan Bristow, I would first of all be thinking of Billy Owens. They need a small forward, and Johnny Newman's just not, I don't think, consistent enough to do that job. But if also I'm Alan Bristow, I got to think that they would take, and I would take, Larry Johnson of University of Las Vegas, a 6'7" power forward who can also play the small forward. So that would also give them the opportunity.
Well, he got the selection out. The explanation, cut off at the buzzer. Larry Johnson of UNLV is gone. Start the clock. I can move through this a good deal more concisely. I'm Willis Reed, GM of the Nets. I want Kenny Anderson, point guard from Georgia Tech. Then I'm going to have two of the most coveted players in the college ranks over the last few years. The reigning Rookie of the Year, Derek Coleman from Syracuse, taken with the first pick last year. Now with the number 2 pick, I've got Kenny Anderson. I'm building a decent team. I've got a serviceable center in Sam Bowie. I can trade Mookie Blaylock now, maybe get some value for him. Kenny Anderson.
And beat the clock.
Getting out of hand. All right. Sacramento Kings.
I'm the Kings. Jerry Reynolds, I spoke to him the other day, and I asked him if he would take anybody but those top 3 guys. We already mentioned them, Owens, Johnson, and Anderson. He said even the Kings can't screw up this draft. He's just going to take the guy that falls down to him, and that's going to be Billy Owens in this case, although I believe that he's going to try and trade for Kenny Anderson with the Nets. So it's going to be Owens, and then he'll make a trade in the small forward position or move Antoine Carr.
Billy Owens is what I'm getting out of this. Is this the gist of it? Billy Owens of Syracuse.
Now, I haven't talked to anybody. I haven't talked to Bernie Bickerstaff. I haven't talked to Paul Westhead. But Denver in the 4th spot.
Have you talked to Dave Checketts?
Have you talked to David Kahn?
Okay. The Denver Nuggets, a team that runs... See, you're getting into my 24-second shot clock right now. You're just like an official. They need guys who can run and play defense. Now, obviously, Dikembe Mutombo, right? I mean, the big 7-footer from Georgetown is a great defensive player, a little bit raw. That would be a guy that they could draft and probably use him to trade to Golden State and come for a number of picks. Dikembe Mutombo.
Dikembe Mutombo of Georgetown, bound for the Denver Nuggets. Back to Bob Ferry for choice number 5, the Miami Heat.
Well, the Miami Heat really need a power forward. They went out last year and tried to sign John Williams of Cleveland. In fact, they did sign him but didn't get him. So if they got Doug Smith available there, University of Missouri, a 6'10", 6'11", 225-pound power forward, they'd take him in a minute. I beat the clock.
Oh, you beat it by plenty. Doug Smith of the Missouri Tigers going to Miami. Now choice number 6 would belong to the Dallas Mavericks. They've got a number of ways they could go. Now, since you've already taken Doug Smith and Mutombo is also gone, I can't think first about replacing the ever-questionable Roy Tarpley. So that forces me to go to guard. I would have taken Doug Smith if he was still there, but I got to go to guard. I got to take Steve Smith out of Michigan State and then think about trading either Derek Harper or the 32-year-old Rolando Blackman to help myself elsewhere. So I got Steve Smith.
Okay. I got Minnesota. Right? Number 7. They're hoping to draft a power forward, but they're also hoping that one of the Smiths drop down out of the sky into this spot, and they would take either one if they're available. But they will take Brian Williams from Arizona, who, as we speak, is vacationing in the south of France, working on his left bank, right bank, no doubt.
Very nice.
I knew you'd depreciate that.
Depreciate it?
Right. I knew you'd depreciate it.
A little continental humor from Vecsey. All right, so Brian Williams of Arizona would go to Minnesota. That would leave the Washington Bullets. It would be appropriate if Bob Ferry made the choice, but he won't. It falls to Pat Riley.
No, and I had a good conversation with Bob, who absolutely knows nothing about the Washington Bullets, okay? He only was there for 17 years. But anyhow, losing Jeff Malone last year, probably need a guard in the backcourt. Liddell Eccles is all they have back there. Darrell Walker's a great point guard. He's not a true point guard that can do the 3 things that a point guard has to do: shoot, penetrate and hit free throws. I would take Greg Anthony from University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Greg Anthony from the Runnin' Rebels goes in the 8th slot to the Washington
I hate to be pressured
Bullets.
on this clock. My God.
Now, here's something that also has some irony in it. The LA Clippers selection will be made by Bob Ferry.
What's the irony of that?
Didn't the LA Clippers at one time
That's correct.
Danny Ferry?
That's correct. And I think the LA Clippers are going out and try to get an experienced point guard, or they would take a point guard in that spot. But I think they're going to get help at center, and I think they take Luc Longley, a 7-foot center from New Mexico.
All right, Luc Longley, beat it by plenty. Luc Longley from New Mexico. Now we go to my selection, the Orlando Magic. Now, Greg Kite started every game at center for them last year. So you know they need help up front. Mutombo is gone. Longley is gone. Now, if I'm thinking big man, that leaves me with Stanley Roberts, late of LSU, or maybe Rich King of Nebraska. I think Roberts is the better player, so if I'm Orlando, I'm taking Stanley Roberts with that 10th.
You've never even seen Stanley Roberts play.
Oh, I've examined this. I've examined this situation. Okay. Unlike you, I have been on the phone all week. I haven't been as busy.
All right, I've got the Cavaliers. Now, the Cavaliers need a starting off guard ever since Ron Harper left. They've got to put Elo back on the bench, but they also need a backup point guard, maybe even a starting point guard, because Mark Price is going to be back December, January, maybe even after that. But I think they'll go for the off guard number 1 and take Mark Macon.
All right, so the lottery choices are complete. Peter Vecsey, acting on behalf of the Cleveland Cavaliers, for which Wayne Embry is eternally grateful, selects Mark Macon of Temple. Now, by way of review, for those of you scoring at home, here is the insider's draft order. Larry Johnson of UNLV to Charlotte, Kenny Anderson to New Jersey, Billy Owens to Sacramento, Dikembe Mutombo to Denver, Doug Smith of Missouri to Miami, Steve Smith of Michigan State to Dallas, Minnesota gets Brian Williams of Arizona, Washington with guard Greg Anthony from Nevada, Las Vegas, Luc Longley, the New Mexico big man, to the Clippers, Orlando takes Stanley Roberts out of LSU, and Cleveland gets Mark Macon. We'll see how close they actually come on June 26th. We're close to the point where we need a commercial break. Stay with us. We're back to wrap things up right after this.